Oh my goodness, what a mess. Okay. Whoops. I seem to have forgotten another output capture. Hello guys, how's it going? Still trying to figure this stuff out. Still having to deal with that. So I've got a new computer, and because it's a new computer, the setup is all kinds of weird. And that means that I am struggling to figure out how to get everything halfway back to where it was. And I'm getting there. It's just taking a bit more effort than I would have expected. I'm going to put the palette camera down here, and hopefully that'll be okay. Hopefully the audio sounds fine. Hopefully the video is okay. It's definitely a whole lot crisper than I remember it being. I don't know if Camo just had a really good update or not, but here we are. Okay, so the first thing that's happening here is that I'm going to finally get everything set up. How are you guys doing? How is everything going? I forgot to put up the starting soon, which is fine, I guess. Just trying to make everything work, and I'm very, very slowly getting there. Okay, the palette camera can go behind a whole bunch of stuff because it's not super necessary. The VPO is going to go above everything because the VPO is super important. We're going to keep him up there. All of that looks like it's going to be fine. Wait, no, this can probably go above the image slideshow. That can go up there with the VPO. And we're going to lock that in place too. Is that even working? Not really, I guess. That can just go ahead and be removed. We don't need that. Okay, so I guess things are gonna go how it's gonna go today. I have some Death Guard that I'm going to be painting. I have primed these guys, and I have primed them up to the best of my ability in this style. So instead of starting with a dark brown like I did with my previous set, these guys are going to start with like a very dark purple, which will hopefully show through real nicely and create a good contrast from like the purple up to the green up to the yellow. That's the plan, at least. So we'll see how that looks. First thing I'm going to do is completely forget how I did this because it's been a little while since I painted Typhus and the like, and I failed to actually remind myself how I did it with the paint scheme. So we're going to start with a purple dark green mix, and we're going to work our way back up to a brighter color, I suppose. So we've got this Vallejo Royal Purple, which is the kind I've been using, and we're going to mix it together with, this is actually a really good replacer for Death Guard Green. It's called Heavy Gray, but it has like a really like flat green tint to it, which, as far as I'm concerned, looks pretty darn good when placed over the as a replacement for the Death Guard stuff. My brain is so potato right now. You guys can probably tell, and you probably will be able to tell once the video goes up, but my brain is completely potato. I have been studying very intensely for the past couple days on different operating systems and the like as part of my certification tests, and it hasn't been difficult. It's just that it's a lot, and that's really starting to get to me. I just got through today learning about a bunch of the different operating systems all at once, and so there was an intense amount of knowledge that I didn't have to memorize, but I had to be very familiar with. And after a while, it just all started sounding like gibberish to me. So we're going to mix this purple in with this black to make it a little darker. And then we're going to mix in some of this heavy gray to really flatten it out. And hopefully what that'll do is that'll create a transition color on these guys' bodies, because they don't have to all be an intense color to start off with, right? As always, the beautiful part is just simply that the Vallejo paints work so well. So we will see how this all looks. Okay, well, you guys can't even see what I'm doing there. Now ideally this first layer is going to go on super gentle, and that way it doesn't have like an incredibly noticeable separation in terms of color from the second one. But we're going to see how this is going to go. Hopefully the music isn't too loud. Hopefully you guys will be fine, and you can still hear me okay. You can still hear everything I'm doing okay. When I moved over to the new computer, I forgot to export all of my settings and bring them over with me. So I had to completely rebuild my OBS setup. And so I don't know if it's going to be any good. I don't know if it is any good. I'm a little frustrated because my whole goal was to have everything saved via OneDrive. But apparently, between disconnecting from OneDrive out of sheer frustration and then trying to reconnect, and OneDrive still trying to hold on to a bunch of files that honestly aren't there anymore, and then getting mad at me when I tried to get rid of them, I just gave up and started manually transferring over the big files that I cared about. And it was working for the most part. I got a lot of things over, like I got my pictures over, I got my videos over. I was able to move my entire Steam library via an external hard drive, and that all seemed to synchronize up real nicely. But some of the minor stuff like this got lost in the fold, and so I was gonna actually paint and stream a little bit yesterday, but I ran out of time because I was busy trying to reconfigure the microphone settings. So, you know, live and learn. But that's neither here nor there right now. What I'm excited about is, and I've mentioned this countless times before, but what I'm most excited about here is that, wait a minute, this is not what I want to have here. I don't care about having that. No, that can, I don't want that there. Add, no, not another scene. I'm not going to mess with that. I used to have it so that I could see if there were any new viewers, how long they'd been watching, etc., but that little information window is gone. I was wondering what was wrong with that side of the OBS Studio layout. The answer is I'm missing a whole section of data that I like to be able to see. But that's okay. But yeah, you can probably clearly see that I'm getting this slightly lighter purple on top of the darker layer that I have down here. Oh, that's so cool. He's got some like gross little bitty bobs coming out of his ankle. But yeah, I didn't change much. Like I said, I upgraded the app for OBS Studio because I downloaded the newest one, and that's it. I'm still using the same camera. I'm still using the same mic. I did have a friend come over yesterday, and while he was over here, he did some troubleshooting for me with the mic, and he suggested that I put a little bit better soundproofing around where I am, which is a bunch of concrete walls. So hopefully that's improving the sound quality just a smidgen. I've just got like a towel up against one of them, which is hopefully causing the audio not to bounce quite as badly. And I've also got a little sound booth attached to the mic stand, so that should also be helping as well. But yeah, that's kind of how things are going. Wow, he's really out of focus. Okay. We're just going to add a little bit more up there. And he's got a bit of a problem right here. And just as I expected, because of just the nature of these models, this guy is incredibly paintable. Like, even with the Scythe crossing over him, he still has a very paintable torso and body, and that makes me very, very, very happy. Because this is such a cool model. Okay, leave just a little bit at the bottom. And let's see. But yeah, I've wanted to paint these guys for a long time. I used to own a set of them. That was part of a lot that I purchased back when I was first starting to build a Death Guard army. Was disappointed that I couldn't paint them and was too afraid to strip them myself. So they ended up being sold as part of a lot. Finally got these ones. Couldn't be more excited to have them. Okay. Couldn't be more excited to be painting them. Hopefully they will turn out just as nice as some of the other Death Guard models I've painted recently. Same thing right here. Again, in all these, that's actually going to end up being copper, I think. In all these areas, all I'm working to do is add just a little bit of brightness with a slightly brighter purple that's blended in a little bit with the green I will be using. And from there, I can kind of transition more smoothly into the lighter green. Now, when Doig Swift saw this, they mentioned that the color had like a very emerald green appearance, which I think is really funny given that it's Death Guard and they're all about rot and decay. So emerald green was not the color I was thinking of, but with how vibrant it ended up being, it's like, yeah, I guess that is an emerald green. Like, I can't argue. Okay. Yeah, there's just something about these models. They are so freaking cool. If I ever manage to get back into cosplay or doing anything crazy like that, I am so definitely going to do a Death Shroud Terminator. I even recently found like a Death Shroud Scythe that I can 3D print that's absolutely massive, but it looks so good. So that's going to be yet another goal of mine, is to eventually be able to print and create and wear a full set of this bloated Cataphractii Terminator armor. And I guess what'll kind of work in my favor is I'm pretty broad and solid in the chest anyway, so the armor is going to be proportionate because I can wear stuff to bulk out my legs, but the armor is going to look really good across my giant upper body. I'll have Georgia the Jungle appearance. Okay. That's not something I want to hit. I want to hit everything around that, because that Plague Spitter is going to be copper, I think. Yeah, so I'm just going to turn that a little bit. I guess trying to watch the monitor at the same time is causing my entire body to turn, and that's making it very difficult. To actually see what I'm doing, because I'm starting to lisp with the character. There we go. And I think also, even though I glued him in, I don't know if he fell or not, but he's definitely wobbling a little on his popsicle stick. And that's definitely not good for the model. There we go. There we go. Do a little bit up here. Yeah, as always, Vallejo paints are going on wonderfully like a dream. It's all looking good. Rinse all that out. Yeah, there we go. Now get some more on it. Rinse the paint off. Put some more paint on. There we go. Mix that in with some more green. Try and get up to that dull color again. And all we're going to do is put it back on here. And that's probably actually also going to get to be a dull copper. I don't think I like the idea of that being, those caps being the same color. It kind of cheapens it down, doesn't it? Even though this guy is going to be absolutely desolate, I still want him to pop. Okay. Yep, didn't hit that, and now I have. So that's about it in terms of a base covering for him. And you can see that actually did quite a bit for the model. You can see a pretty distinct difference between the purple that he started with and the purple that he's headed towards, or the green that he's headed towards. So let's see how that works. Take a little bit of that. We're just going to mix it in further. And now that I have a transitionary color, I can afford to be a little less kind with the green. There we go. Okay. Same kind of thing. A little bit there. Oh, it doesn't look like I got any back there. I'll have to go back with that later. Yeah, I didn't get any of that back leg. Go ahead and go back and revisit those bits. Mix it back in. Let's see what I can do in here. There we go. Just to put something on there. Much better. Okay. A little bit of it like so. Okay, going from this very drab, heavy gray, we'll eventually work our way up to a very nice emerald green. I'm beginning to think that I probably should have actually looked up the painting tutorial real quick before I hopped online. Because I feel like this is not the correct color. But that's okay. That's something I can fix later, I suppose. There we go. Leggy done. I also happen to acquire a Rotigus that I will be putting together and painting soon. Though it's not an official one because I don't have, you know, $160 to spend, but it is most definitely a Rotigus. It's a proxy, since I don't ever plan on competing with these guys in any real tournaments. But it's really darn close. And I'm kind of excited to assemble them because I've wanted a great unclean one for a while too. And it's just not been in the cards. So hopefully I'll be able to get him all printed out and everything. And then he can just be another disgusting part of my army. My actual hope is that I can get him to a point where when people look at him, they're just kind of like, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to look at that thing. Okay. So, this color that I'm using has kind of been my base for all of my Death Guard, but I'm beginning to think that maybe this is not the color I'm supposed to be using here, that I should be using the much richer, darker green, and that I hecked up a little bit by starting with this color. And if I did, that's okay. One of the beauties of this hobby is that you can always paint over it. Because this is coming out very, very bright. It does look really good, don't get me wrong, but it's coming out very, very bright. So I suppose that will be a mistake I'll have to learn from. Okay, there we go. But yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. Now let's go ahead. It is coming. He's got this big bloated stomach armor now that he's definitely exploded a little bit. One of my favorite things about the armor that they have is it always looks like it's bursting at the seams, which is kind of the point. They're supposed to look bloated and cancerous and just way too much. And I think that they did a really good job hitting that visual language with the newer models. Like, the old ones had it too, don't get me wrong. The old ones look great for what they were, but I really, really enjoy the design of the newer Death Guard models. One thing that someone mentioned, and I can see where they're coming from, was that the newer Death Guard models look a little bit sterile in comparison. They, a lot of the gore and viscera of the original Death Guard has been replaced with more of like an eldritch tentacle thing. And so instead of like their guts hanging out, it's very clearly just gross mutation. And it's like, I get it. But at the very least, they're still being described as though those parts are gross bits of their bodies instead of gross mutated bits of their bodies. And so it still works. Hey, Shrek Lover Toes, how you doing? I had to completely rebuild my OBS setup because I got a new computer and it got here really quickly, so I spent pretty much all of yesterday transferring everything. And I forgot my OBS settings. So I'm using basically a system built from the ground up again. And right now, this is kind of my trial run of it to make sure that it all works fine, is this stream. And the other part of it is that I wanted to do the same high contrast thing I did on Typhus with these guys, but to be completely honest, I forgot how to do it. Because I was following a tutorial that I found online that I thought did a tremendous job. So I'm kind of following the same procedures, but I think I immediately grabbed the wrong green. And so he's going from like very dark to very bright really quickly. And what I'm probably going to do is give it a quick look up in between streams after I continue working on this guy. Doesn't seem like that brush has much of a oh, it does not. This brush has absolutely like no tip. It's already been worn down. And that's kind of why I'm using it for base coating right now. I have a Citadel brush that is still adequate enough for what I need to do with it, for like more precision painting. And so that one is my my current like precision brush. This one is only for like large flat surfaces where I don't need to have that kind of precision. Okay. And so I'm kind of just making the most of a dying tool at this point. And honestly, I think it's doing okay. Looks fancy though. The brush or the dude? Because the brush is a Winsor & Newton that I tried to treat better than my previous Winsor & Newton, But apparently I didn't do a good enough job, so it kind of got beat to shit too. And so I'm still trying to figure out the proper way to care for these brushes, despite all the videos that I have watched. And, model? No, you. I mean the model. Yeah, I really like this model. Like, I mentioned it a couple of times, but the Death Shroud were one of the first models that made me really fall in love with the Death Guard as a whole. Because before then, I just thought they were gross and icky. And, a lot of their, like, open gore just turned my stomach. But, getting to see this model, like, whoa, okay, I dig that. And, I owned a set of pre-painted ones I got from, like, a lot sale. But I was too cowardly to repaint them myself. And so I sold them along with the rest of my Death Guard when I kind of got out of Death Guard Army, because I wasn't having fun with them. But then I repainted the dudes I repainted, and it made me want to collect again, and I decided that the first big purchase for that was going to be the Death Shroud, because I've loved these models from afar, and I feel like I'm good enough now to really do them justice. So that's the whole plan. Make them pretty. Make them pretty ugly. And yeah, I agree. The Death Guard do have some really freaking cool. I do not have a great unclean one. I don't have the money for a great unclean one. However, I did just find a very good STL proxy of Rodigus. So that's going to be probably my next big painting project. And it's really close. Like, I think the guy might be just a little bit too close for comfort. But I already purchased the STL and downloaded it, so I don't have to really worry about, you know, losing access to the model. And actually, no, Death Guard aren't really a pain to paint, because they're so sloppy that if you, like, mess up, it just looks like armor discoloration. And that works really nicely for the army, because the army's all rotten and beaten up and whatnot. And that's kind of the beauty of it. I think I put it in the Discord, but like one of the first big painting projects I had was taking the original starter kit from like First Strike and following Guy from Midwinter Mini's speed painting tutorial. And a lot of the time he's just kind of like, you know, don't worry if you mess it up. They're supposed to be rotting and discolored. You can always clean it up later anyway. The Tau? My recollection of them is not really, because they're tiny and fiddly. But I also painted them very early in my painting journey. And I think I was obsessing over details I shouldn't have obsessed over. So they're probably fine. They have a lot of flat panels, which tends to lend well to them. Eventually, I'm going to get Commander Farsight. And I'm going to paint him. 1 second away from keyboard. That's fine. I'm definitely game to repeat what I just said if you missed most of it. Okay. Okay. There we go. I feel like this is definitely the wrong color to be painting him here. This is the default color, and while it does look good, it's just too immediately bright for what I want to do. So what's most likely going to happen is I'm going to pull up Phelan Miniatures video, put it on mute, and scrub through it, and then see that, oh no, this is definitely the wrong paint color. You screwed up, Ben Repaints. Well, you screwed up if you wanted to do his style. It looks good so far. So I can't be too hard on myself here. Okay. Because, you know, look at that. That looks fantastic. Okay. If you give me a second, I'm going to just leave him here while I go on the tube of the U's, open up another one, go back to Mr. Phelan Miniatures, go to Vidya, Go down to his high contrast something or other, if I can find it. I thought it was one of the first, no, one of the first things he painted was that guy. There's green. That's the wrong green. Green power armor. None of that. Okay, so he did go with, I was right. He went with a very, very, very dark green that I did not go with. So, I'll dig how this looks, but it's the wrong color. So what I'm going to do is dunk him in the water. No, I'm going to go ahead and stick him onto my paint holder. I'm going to whack the microphone really hard, because why not? But I am going to go ahead and mix up some of this paint. And we're going to go back over him with a different color entirely. Which, in all seriousness, in all honesty, not a huge deal. Don't care that much. Something else I'm going to do before I get to that is I'm going to clean the gray paint off of the wet palette, because it's unnecessary for the rest of the job here. So we're going to clean that off. I think that would have done it. Yep, I'm going to clean that off right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the other green back on, which is a much lighter, or much richer green. And it's going to get mixed in with the violet and the black, which should do a pretty good job of turning it into a much darker color that'll match more what he was actually using, which I think is like a professional paint, not necessarily a paint for miniatures. But that doesn't matter too much. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Trust me. So we're going to mix in this green, which I think you can see from there. Oh yeah, you guys got to watch me really heck that stuff up. Okay, so we're going to go back over what I just painted with this much darker green. That will yeah, that's more what I'm looking for. That's more what I'm looking for. Look at how dark that is in comparison. That's exactly what I was looking for. Welcome back. I didn't realize you left until I was mid-ramble, but I did realize, I did a quick look up on the gentleman's YouTube channel who taught me this tutorial. I was definitely using the wrong green. So, given that it's a darker color, I'm just going to go ahead and paint over everything I just did. Wife called you downstairs to pour her vodka? Very cool. Very, very cool. But yeah, I need to repaint this guy entirely, which didn't have a choice. Well, I mean, you're doing something nice for your wife. Not much of a mental conundrum there, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. I mean, that's what I think, because when she's happy, you know, whole mood of the house rises. Okay, but yeah, I was voluntold. Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, I painted him the wrong color. That was the wrong green entirely. That green had no purpose, no point in this paint scheme. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back over it with this much darker, like dark green, which is just a combination of a regular green and a little bit of black and violet, as displayed on the color palette below. But it's going to give everything this really deep, rich, like forest green color. And then from there I can build up into what's going to end up being like an absolutely beautiful emerald green, and I'm really excited for that. Okay, mix that off. Mix that off. Do that. Yep, that is definitely the color I want. Ooh, that's a good color. That's the good shit. Okay. And yeah, like you can definitely see it. It's much darker. And so I definitely had some doubts the first time I did this. Like, we're going really dark. Is this really going to look any decent when it finishes up? You're so tired of badge painting. Well, I mean, you did have that giant pile of them that you posted in the Discord, right? Something that was suggested to me, and I don't know if you're really in a position to do it, but when you're doing badge painting like that, put a model aside that you really want to paint, and then, like, paint that one as your reward for painting a whole bunch of the ones that you kind of have to force yourself through. And that way you can kind of give yourself something to work towards. You can keep the fun available. I don't know if that's going to work for you. Unfortunately, I'm really stubborn, and I will immediately go for the model I want to paint the most. And that definitely means that I'm left with a bunch of things I don't want to paint with, or I don't want to paint. But eventually the discipline kicks back in, and he's kind of listing again, isn't he? And I'm eventually able to get stuff done. It just takes a while. I say as my Cursed City minis weep from the toolbox they've been in for a couple of months now. I'll get back to them eventually, because I have a vested interest in playing Warhammer Cursed City. And I want those minis to sing on the tabletop. I'm getting pinged. Why am I getting pinged? Okay, yep, I'm getting pinged because we are coordinating for Baldur's Gate. I want to emphasize, guys, if you have not played Baldur's Gate 3 and you like Dungeons & Dragons, play Baldur's Gate 3 because it's really good Dungeons & Dragons. I got like 2/3 of the minis covered in my Alpha Legion mix, but mainly the bigger things like the drop pod and the Razorback, which really slowed you down. I can get that. I definitely understand that. I'm scared to paint a drop pod. I don't know why. I assembled a drop pod. I 3D printed one and assembled it. And unfortunately, I remember as soon as I assembled it, I was like, I friggin' hate this thing. And I don't want to paint it. I want to throw it away. So I did. So I wasted all that resin on a drop pod. I put it together, I primed it, and I realized I didn't like it in the least, and it got chucked. I'm hoping if I ever get a real drop pod, construction issues notwithstanding, I'll appreciate it more, and I'll actually paint it. Which I feel like is going to happen simply because I'll have paid a whole lot more for it than I did for the 3D print. Hope the 3D printed was easier to assemble. It wasn't that bad, I don't think. I don't know how hard the original one is, other than that everyone seems to hate it. But the 3D printed one was made intelligently. And so putting it together was not the most annoying part of it. It was just looking at it and realizing I had to paint the whole thing. I was just not in the place to do so. That might have been from the lingering anxiety and depression from work, but who knows? All I know is it's in a landfill somewhere. Yeah, this is a much better green. I'm much happier with this green. But no, eventually I do plan. The OG is annoying, but I feel it was over-exaggerated for how bad it was. I mean, yeah, that tends to be the case. Space Marine players are notoriously spoiled. And here's your equal attention, Primaris Lieutenant, for you. Whatever the joke is. Because how many Primaris Lieutenants exist now? The number is stupid. Stupid too many. I know that much. And I remember someone did a thing. I don't remember if it was Primaris Lieutenants or Primaris Captains. Yeah, I am one too. I had it's not like a huge amount by any means, but I had almost 4,000 points of Imperial Fists at one point before I started whittling it back down. But yeah, I definitely remember seeing someone with the Ultramarines in particular. They were able to make a captain for each company, a unique captain out of the number of Space Marine captains that existed, and that's funny to me. And the fact that I think, like, the Space Marines have more captains than the Votan have total units, or something silly like that. Some weird statistic that shows just how many, how many units the Space Marines actually have to play with. Okay. Yeah, this deep green is definitely going to look a whole lot better. And it was an easy fix, too. That's what feels good about this. That's going to be my feel-good takeaway. I messed up on the color, but the fix was more, just made me happy. Need a Lieutenant Gravis, Terminator, on bike, in bike, ran over by bike, screaming at bike. I think, like, the Apothecary Biologus has become a Primaris Lieutenant by proxy, because the thing he does is the thing that the regular Lieutenant does, isn't it? We also don't have a lieutenant in with a jump pack, do we? Not anymore. Clearly someone has dropped the ball, and this will not stand. They all need to be Ultramarines characters from new Ultramarines books. That's the other thing. They have to be super unique and, like, impossible to kit bash. They gotta just be straight, like, Lieutenant Codicius of the Codices subchapter of the Ultramarines. I have no idea. Real question, what about Terminator and Chaplain armor? I don't think they have one yet. I know they don't have a Lieutenant. They do have a Terminator and Chaplain armor, and he's really cool. I think they just released him, didn't they? Or he's on pre-order? I don't remember. All the Space Marine releases have started looking the same to me, and so I've kind of stopped paying attention to them. Oh, Terminator. Wait a minute. They're backwards. It's backwards. You're saying Terminator in Chaplain armor, not Chaplain in Terminator armor. I don't know anymore. Oh, you weren't here. I'm very tired. I've spent all day listening to video lectures about the different types of operating systems and quick rundowns on how they work that weren't exactly quick. So my head is like floating potato soup right now. So if I don't catch stuff like that, it's only partially because I'm a dullard. Okay. So now that we got that done, now that he's all, like, properly greened up, it was released, I joke, since my roommate got them mixed up here and there. That's right, your roommate's the one who, like, can't keep them straight, right? Like, he's the one who keeps struggling to remember who's who and what's what. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. Start doing a little bit of the brighter green. The amount of times I would hear that is excessive. Fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of Warhams to try and remember. My buddy who used to play AdMech, he just kind of gave up on trying to acknowledge the different types of Space Marine models. Especially with the Primaris names that have to be proprietary, so they can't just be like heavy weapons unit and tactical unit and stealth unit. They've got to have names like Incursor and Inceptor and Intercessor and Devastator and Desolator. It's all too much. I guess technically you could say the Terminator and Chaplain armor, wouldn't that just be a Dark Angel? I don't know. Well, with their long church robes and everything. Okay, let's see. We're gonna hit that. I have no idea what this music is. It was something I saved that was just supposed to be chill vibe music, like Nintendo music or something. My Epidemic subscription ran out, and so I'm just using what I've got, which in this case is YouTube. Okay. Just a little bit of the emerald green. Trying to leave some darker shadows so that it really pops once I start hitting those highlights. But yeah, you can already see how much brighter it's making him, how much like deeper it's making the green on his armor. And I vibe with that so hard. I want these guys in Typhus to be the scariest thing on the field. I saw Auspex Tactics actually did a video about Typhus and how dangerous he's become as a character. and that, like, he punches up decently against heavy units, and he definitely punches down ridiculously well because of his Man Reaper. And I've always liked Typhus as a model, but knowing how good he is alongside a set of Death Shroud was, I mean, to be completely truthful, another reason why I wanted these guys. I just love the idea. Gotta love Chimeras, Inceptors, Ineptors, Insanitors, Imploders, Exploders, Aggressors. You forgot Eradicators. Thank you. And Eliminators. And Explicators. And Exsanguinators. Now, how many of those were real and how many did I make up? All the ores, right? Yeah. It was that I will admit that's one thing. I understand that they're writing books to sell the toys, to sell the models, but that is one thing I kind of dislike about the fiction, is that whenever a new model comes out, they've got to really draw attention to that model. So, like, I was reading, I think Dark Imperium. Is Dark Imperium the 8th edition one with Gilliman coming back and fighting Mortarion and Nurgle? Because if that's the one I'm thinking of, Dark Imperium, then I just remember I was reading it and was so taken out of the story by the fact that they spent so much time talking about the Hellblasters and what they could do, and the Inceptors, because those were, like, you know, brand new units that came with the starter box. But the starter box came out like 6-7 years ago, probably longer, because I can't brain right now. But just, it felt like they spent so much time explaining what those things were. And it's like, I get it, you're pushing a toy. You don't listen to too many modern... I mean, you're not missing anything. Not to be mean to them, because I know those authors are doing the best they can with the content they love. But, most of the modern Space Marine stuff and Imperium stuff is garbage. Apparently, the Orcs are having some really good books. And, the Necrons got a couple of really good ones, so it's not like everyone's starving at the table. I got really into the Horus Heresy, and I'm right now waiting for the audiobooks for the last 2 of the Siege of Terra to become obtainable. But I've gotten away from listening to 40k and 30k, and now I'm reading through Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, and having a grand old time with that. The last 2 for the Siege of Terra. Yeah, what's his name? Dan Abnett was tasked with writing the last book of it, the End and the Death, and which was supposed to be book 8. Yeah, part 2 and 3 of the End of the Death. Yeah. I know that the audiobooks are available, but I cannot acquire them without spending more money than I have. So my goal is to acquire them by spending the money that I can spend on them. And you can take that statement however you want. Regardless, I'm reading Discworld right now, and I'm having a darn good time with Discworld, so I'm just gonna keep on trucking with that until the other 2 become more widely available. Which has been, admittedly, only made easier by the fact that Terry Pratchett's such a good author, because otherwise, with how the End of the Death Part 1 ended, I'm still upsetty. Because it was such a cliffhanger. I thought you highly recommend, you liked Part 2 and 3. I've tried to avoid spoilers, but it was really hard and I failed. And I haven't looked at the wikis or anything or read the whole plots for them. I just, I know some of the key points to them. And I'm excited to get to it. I'm excited to read how Dan Abnett lays it all down, because for me, the journey is more important than the destination. So eventually I will read them, and eventually I will have a good time. Or I'll listen to Jonathan Keeble read them, and I'll have a good time.
But until then, I'm just trying not to think too much about it. I'm assuming, did you read them by yourself, or did you, like, get an audiobook for them? I'm assuming you actually read them. But I've, especially because of the work environment and whatnot, being a school teacher, I'm pleased with how much Part 3 focused on the fight. How long is Part 3, man? How much? You got them on Audible? Awesome. So, the narrator for them is Jonathan Keeble, right? They ended with that tremendous dude. It's really weird knowing that he, like, won an award for his narration of, I think, Paul McCartney's biography. Keeble does all three. Okay, I figured. I'm kind of sad that they didn't mirror the beginning and the end of the series, because at the beginning they had Toby Longworth read the first 3 books, and then they had Keeble pick up and read Flight of the Eisenstein. And I would have loved for Keeble to have read Echoes of Eternity, and then once we got into, like, the final trilogy, it would have gone back to Toby Longworth. Just because we would have, you know, started the series how we ended it. And that would have been neat. But, you know, can't have everything. I think if we had to end it with anyone, I'm glad it was Jonathan Keeble. But yeah, he won an award for his audiobook narration for doing, I think, a Paul McCartney biography. And it's kind of, your collection mostly Siege of Terra with some stories here and there. I mean, they are probably the ones with the most dedication put to them. You know what I mean? The most effort put into them. Because up until recently, they really weren't trying to sell models with those books. They were trying to tell a story that people were interested in. And so while there definitely are some stinkers in that list, by and large, the quality of the Siege of Terra books is pretty okay. But yeah, hearing Keeble go from, like, trying to do Paul McCartney's inflection to listening to him rasp out every other line as Angron was definitely a mood. That and the lore for my custom chapter you take from the Horus Heresy era. That's fair. Something else I love about this game so much is just the ability to do whatever you want. I love how fast and loose they are with the lore and telling you or encouraging you to make whatever you want with your army. Cause yeah, your custom army is like Imperial Fist Alpha Legion, isn't it? It does like both of those. Very cool. Yeah, one of my friends who plays, he started with Space Wolves because he was really big into, like, the Nordic leanings of them. But when he decided to choose a Chaos Army, he went Alpha Legion because he's a huge fan of Hydras just as a monster, and or as a mythical beast. And so when he found out that there was a Space Marine chapter dedicated to him, he was like, yep, that one's for me. That's mine. The main problem with me and audiobooks is like what people say with the book Legion. I liked that book. I thought it was a real good one. I enjoyed reading it. Listening to it. Whatever you want to call it. What did people say about Legion? What was wrong with Legion? Wrong or right with Legion? Start slow, then really gets interesting. Yeah, and I think that's where having the narrator kind of helps me a lot, is that he gives the characters more characterization than I could in my brain. So, and of course listening to him pronounce the names helps tremendously. But, I really liked Legion. I thought that was like, I wasn't so sure about starting with a bunch of guardsmen, but I knew that Dan Abnett does a good job with guardsmen. So I gave it a chance, and I really liked it all the way through. The only books I found myself actively struggling with in the Horus Heresy when I was reading through it were the ones around the Salamanders, which sucks because I like the Salamanders as a chapter, but between the narrator's voice and the very clunky prose, I couldn't finish them. I think I got halfway through Deathfire, and I thought it was ending, and then I found out it was only like halfway through. Halfway through, I really look forward to finishing it. Yeah. That's how I felt about Deathfire. Like, the only good thing for that part to me was, why is the text box so tiny for the chat? That's not the size it's supposed to be. Huh. That height 700, see what that does. Nothing. Uh-oh, what's going on with Zatri? That's wrong. Okay, I'll fix that later. I didn't notice the text box was so cramped. But yeah, I realized I was only halfway done with Deathfire, and I was just like, I can't anymore. I can't listen to this anymore. It was the first book that I skipped in the Horus Heresy. And then after that, I got tired of going through the anthologies, and just kind of struggling through it, and I just started picking and choosing which ones I wanted to read. And so I think I finished with Path of Heaven, Master of Mankind, and The Buried Dagger. And from what I understand, I should have listened to Wolfsbane and a couple of other ones, but those ones were pretty good. Unfortunately, I'm slightly spoiled for Harrow Master. They didn't know came out. But now knowing how the Alpha Legion operates modern day makes my loyalist Alpha Legion even better. I have no clue, so unless if you wanna take some time to explain it, the floor is yours. But I don't know much about modern Alpha Legion. I know next to nothing about modern Alpha Legion. Okay. Go ahead and take all this. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and mix some of that in. And I'm going to see what I can do about providing some color tolerance over here. There we go. That's better. Okay. So very clearly, now that he's had the right color put on him, you can see he's considerably brighter. And that's what I'm going for. Now, the next thing is I noticed in some places I didn't leave enough of the original color underneath, so I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush, and I'm going to start pushing back on some of the shadows. And then eventually, I'm going to go ahead and start giving him some highlights. One moment, though. What the heck is Zatri Cat doing, and why is it being a jerk? Zatri.com, socials, No, I don't need to go to your Twitch. I need to go to the widget. Oh wait, no, I'm in the wrong place. Give me a second. I'm still here, I promise. I'm just trying to figure this out right now. Nope, don't want that. Don't want that. That can be garbage. Twitch. Slime chats. Okay. Overlay slime chat. We're gonna verify the key. Key loaded. All that cool stuff's happening. It's connected. Widget settings. Display. No, all this is correct. Uh-oh. It disappeared. That's no good. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and put this guy down for a second, because my chat just disappeared. Why would you do this, chat? Oh. See, this is the problem I'm having. Everything is just kind of pooping the bed. Not sure why. There we go, I guess. Okay, no, that's good. Oversimplified from what I got from the video, the modern Alpha Legion is so fragmented that there are so many warbands who have individual goals and minds, and on occasion warbands will come together to try and work together, much like a senate or government, but with potentially hundreds of warbands of the Alpha Legion. There's no true head figure, as Alfari has disappeared, and there's no longer really leading them. I mean, that all makes sense as far as I know. Yeah, well, for one, Alfarius is dead, as far as I know, and Omegon is now leading them, but you're right, everything is so duplicitous with them that it's like, they don't even know what side they're fighting on anymore, right? And that's definitely an approach. But yeah, I do like the idea that they're so splintered and confused, they just don't know what else to, or where to go or what to do. They're just kind of all going with what they believe are the long-term plans. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and take some of this darker green. I will admit, I am kind of tickled that, even though the authors have said canonically Alfarius, the character Alfarius is dead, and that Omegon has kind of taken over, or Omegon, or however you want to pronounce it, that the Alpha Legion is still just, or Alpha Legion fans are still just like, nope, he's alive. We don't know that he's really dead. And I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. It's part of the fun of the Alpha Legion. Everything is a lie, and everything is truth. And so, more power to you. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. I ought to be a little nicer to this brush, because I think I'm kind of killing it with how violent I'm being. We're gonna do a little bit of that. Do a little bit of that. And again, all I'm doing is darkening down some of these spots. Because I've very clearly gone way too bright. There's some areas I could use just a little more contrast. That's what the plan is right now. But yeah, so how does your warband of Alpha Legion tie into that? I mean, I guess the other fun part about it is that because they haven't, like, shoved your Primarch back into the story, you can still have fun. An Alpha Legion warband could fail in their goal on Imperium World, but due to the nature that they didn't split up right after the Horus Heresy, the Imperium sees them still as one entity, causing the Imperium to really hyper-focus on the failure of a single warband, trying to see if it has a deeper meaning. Exactly. Again, that's the fun of it. It's like, we don't really know, right? No one knows what's truly going on in Alpha Legion schemes. And it's a little deeper than just, you know, haha, exactly. And I think that that's great. And it really lends itself to people who have, like, a more clever mind than I to really do some cool shit with their armies. And with their lore. And that makes me happy. Because I chose the Imperial Fist as my army for a reason. I am not very bright. I am not very creative. My goal is shoot. For me, Alfarius is Omegon, and Omegon is Alfarius, and that's perfectly legit. And probably the case. So to me, it was really Omegon who died. I mean, that would make just as much sense as anything else that happened. That's too bright. We want this to darken down a bit. I want to have a nice darker swath of... There we go. There we go. And then I can build that back up as necessary when I need to. But right now, I just want that to be a little bit darker down. But yeah, if there's anything that really gets on my nerves, it's people who try and, like, insist that there's a canon in 40k, because there's very clearly not, you know? As for my loyalists, I've been thinking about listening to Astartes Anonymous. I have no idea who they are, but I'm assuming they've got some cool stuff on it if you're listening to them. A little bit more of the darkness. Mix it in with the green. to podcast. Okay, I figured as much. Let's see, we're gonna hit the high spots up here a little bit more with... There we go. A little bit more down there. A little bit more in here, just to really darken up some of these spots that, like I said, got a little bit too bright. They have a few videos on like the creating custom chapters, and like I might have heard about them before then. I either heard about them or I'm confusing them with something I read on Reddit. Either way, I do think it's really cool that stuff like that exists in the sphere. Just encouraging people to be creative. Okay, actually, I have the right color for this. You can just go in with this dark green. It's a little bit of the shadow in there. I seem to have missed a spot on him. There we go. Now I can go a little bit higher. Same with back here. This should be considerably... There we go. Yeah, I thought about creating a custom chapter, a few of them, but to be completely honest, I kind of just fell in love with painting the Imperial Fist color scheme, and I wanted all my models to look like that. I wanted them to be part of that army. So that's where my Imperial Fists are, and that's where they're gonna stay. I did have an idea of getting like a company heroes set and painting them up to have like one of those ridiculously bad drawings of a cat on the flag and the banner and making them cat themed. But honestly, if I got a company heroes set, I would almost definitely just paint them like Imperial Fists. I just like the Imperial Fist too much. I think actually I can probably go a little bit higher with the darkness here because this is all going to be under shadow, and then eventually when he starts getting highlights, that will start looking a little better. As for my group, this is going to take a while. Part 1 of a 3-part novel. I mean, what did I expect? It's Alpha Legion. Okay, let's see. This music is remarkably bright and sunny for painting something this horrifying, and I'm for it. I'm here for it. Eventually I'll have to paint them bloat flies, won't I? Okay. A bit in there. A little bit in there. A little bit in there. A little bit in there. This music is a perfect way to represent how Nurgle beings see the 40k universe. Yeah, it's all just sunshine and rainbows and beautiful fields. It's like that meet the Pyro video, right? They've got their own idea, and then it cuts to the real world, and everyone's screaming and everything's on fire. Except in this case, it's not on fire, just everyone's dying of, like, ultra mega radiation poisoning. Okay. Okay. I gotta check to see what's next with this guy, because I know there's more to him. It starts with the dark green. goes up little by little, then he goes to like this really bright neon green, which I think is going to work real nicely, because a lot of him has been darkened back down in the areas that matter. And when he gets hit with the neon green, it'll start showing back up again, which is going to look really good. At least I think so. In the spots where there should be shade, or not shade. The other thing, in the spots where there should be shine. Okay. So next, I'm gonna put him down because I need my other hand back. We're gonna go into. I've got this stuff. It's called Golden Olive, and I think this was originally recommended as a replacement for Death Guard Green. But it's so bright, it doesn't really work for that. So it's just become this like kind of gross looking yellow that I have, or gross looking like olive green that I have. But for what I'm about to use it for, it'll do fine. I don't know if that shows up really well on the palette cam, but there it is. And actually, it's going to get mixed in with the previous green as I blend the layers together. Okay. I would say likely that a remaining company, the Imperial Fist, like Pollux and his men, got combined into a loyalist-aligned Alpha Legion who were activated with loyalist parameters to save the Imperium, and over time they managed to persuade an incoming Imperator Inquisitor to make an ordo for the management of the Imperialist forces and defenses. That is definitely an involved setup you've got. I know you were just using him as an example, but this is for my own edification. What did Pollux end up becoming the chapter master and for the Crimson Fists? If I recall right, that's where Pollux himself went, but there were definitely a lot more companies of Imperial Fists that could have had a lot more going on. I don't know if the paint gods were just deciding to be nice to me today, or if my blindness is finally catching up, but Pollux did because he was cut off from Terra and was with Bobby. Yep, that sounds about right. But anyway, do continue. But yeah, either my eyes are failing me worse than I thought they were, or the painting gods have been very kind to me, because this is going on buttery smooth, and it looks fantastic in terms of color transitioning. Pollux was with was over in Imperium Secundus with Dantioch, which is how those two became homies. Because Dantioch was a Giga Chad and all those other fun words you can use about that guy. Absolute unit of a man. Okay. High contrast. We're gonna do a very gentle brush there. I feel like maybe I need to increase the cutoff time for when stuff disappears in the text box. But I don't have a good view on it, so you guys are gonna have to tell me if the text box stuff is sticking around long enough, or if I need to extend the timer on it. The Ordo would collude with the quote-unquote Alpha Legion, making sure they keep up in Imperial numbers to coordinate attacks from the Imperium to shore up the Imperial defenses. Ah! So they're basically using them like blood games. I dig it. Their goal is to pretend to be traitors so that they can check to see where the weaknesses are in the Imperium's defenses. I dig that so much. That's a really cool use for your chapter. This is indeed looking good. I don't know. I can't tell. Yep, no, that's definitely coming through on the camera. Am I getting a really nice transition between the dark green to the light green on the leggies? I don't know what changed, by the way, with the camera lens that suddenly made it decide to play so nice. On top of this, the chapter could act as renegade chapters, kill enemies of the Imperium or those who would otherwise hinder its defense. And thank you. Yeah, I like the idea that they're like double agents. That's super neat. Okay. There we go. What time is it? It's almost 6 o'clock. I'm gonna need to get going soon because, again, dinner. I was definitely very late for dinner yesterday, which was fine because we really didn't have too much going on. Well, the day before, not yesterday. I didn't have dinner yesterday. I had a place to go. We had a makerspace thing that that me and a colleague were interested in seeing how it was developing. So we went to that, but I definitely was a smidge late. The good news is, though, is that me being late didn't matter because we just played Baldur's Gate afterwards. So I got to hang out with the missus and play some Baldur's Gate. Which, again, if you're a fan of the Dungeons and the Dragoning, play Baldur's Gate. It's so worth it. And if you are, play Rogue Trader as well. Or wait until I finally play Rogue Trader. It would also explain why they would be buttheads to the other latest chapters, which sort of acting like lapdogs for a specific time. And instead of disappearing by shadowy men, you get blamed by Space Marines and cultists of the lake. Yeah, exactly. It's a well thought out idea. You have this Ordo Traitoris or something, whatever you want to call it. And they're secretly in cahoots with a loyalist faction of Alpha Legion who are not quite loyalists, but are, question mark? And they're constantly playing double, triple agents to everyone around them, and no one really knows. That's a really cool idea. Okay, I think I left it a little too wet on the paintbrush there. That'll be okay. It'll look fine. Okay. Next thing here. Add a little more of the paint to a little more of this. So something I've noticed that I do that most painters don't do, and it's probably because they desire paint consistency while I am a gremlin, is I will take very, very tiny amounts of the paint and mix it together as I need it. But I usually see, but then internally the chapter, they have these Imperial Fist-like characteristics with honor and being knightly. Yes, they do. Based on what you've shown me, they definitely do. But, normally I see what looks like huge globs of the paint mixed together when I see these professional painters do it. So the fact that I seem to scrimp so much and be so stingy with my paint, it tickles me to see the contrast. Okay. There we go. Let's see, can I get just enough of this to make it have a highlight even though it's in a little bit more shadow? Ooh, that actually turned out really good. So I guess the answer is yes. We're gonna get the high spots up here, and then I gotta get going. I keep saying that, but it is true. The best part is they can tell the truth to a loyalist and then they would agree that it was a lie due to it being Alpha Legion. Yeah, exactly. Unless their entire personality wasn't based around treachery, then they wouldn't really be Alpha Legion, right? So the fact that you've got them able to tell the truth and for everyone to believe it's treachery, that's exactly how they're supposed to work. That's the good brain juice. Okay. Yeah, this guy is turning out a whole lot better than he had any right to. And I am so for it right now. This is purely on accident. Okay, it's 6:03. I gotta get going. Thank you so much for joining me. This was the progress I made. Hey, Red, I've gotta go. It's 6 o'clock. That way I can explain why I do very sus and possible heretical things with Mechanicus. Yeah, I'm... Out of context, that sounds horrifying. But I understand what you mean. So I went ahead and started coloring this guy, but I gotta get going. It's dinner time. I've got a meeting at 7 with some friends to play some Baldur's Gate, so I've gotta actually get going. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry, Red. At some point, we're gonna catch each other again, and it'll be fine. But today is not that day. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you later. Bye-bye. Yeah, I gotta hydrate. That's happening too when I get upstairs. Later, guys.